Okay, so I wanted to talk about the instincts, and because it seems like people don't really agree on what they are, yet they should be something straightforward. And we have information from the PDB wiki that explains the three of them, how Chazo and Naranjo define them. And then you have books like John's book, and you have stuff from Russ Hudson on this, and I think people are simplifying it, and they need to see how it all connects. Just as an example, let's take a family, and how a family operates, and how the parents work, and how all of that comes together, and how that uses different instincts. Because I've heard people say, that parenting and family is more SP, more SO, or more SX. And the fact of the matter is that these instincts operate, as a group. They function, all three of them are in every single person. And so you have to see how they work, they function as a system, and how, the dominant is overpowered and it's overdone. It does its job and then some, and then it goes bad because of that. And the blind spot is just not used enough. It's just not acknowledged, it's not looked at. So self-preservation is the body, the needs of the self. Basically, you take care of yourself, and you understand the self as a body. We know that the gut triad was derived, that it was derived from the gut triad, that it was inspired by the gut types. That they started off kind of the same thing, and then they split off with instincts and types. So the gut types that have an SP flavor, all of them, every single one of them, they all seem kind of like more SP, or they should be SP, because they're focused on that stuff on a basic level. So you can seem like an SP if you're a gut type. Even if you're an SP last, you could seem like an SP of another type, potentially. And let's take a family. If you're raising a family, all of the physical, practical, day-to-day stuff is very SP first. Taking care of food, cooking, cleaning, clothing, all of that is very SP. And there's also an every man for himself thing with SP, where each person is kind of self-contained, and you get your own room, and you get your own plate, and all of that, parsing everything out and chopping it up into a portion just for you is very self-preservation. And so a lot of caregiving is SP. It has to do with SP. And so SP dominants excel at that stuff. I mean, pretty sure some of the best cooks in the world were self-preservation first. And the best providers, making a lot of money and having plenty of resources is very SP. Taking care of the resources, the practical stuff, and making sure people are healthy, getting them to the doctor, taking care of their insurance, and getting people exercising, and all of that. Very much self-preservation in a family, okay? Next, we'll go to sexual, because that's how it works. It goes from self-pres, which is one person, sexual, which is two people. Okay, and you take two things and you put them together to create a new thing. So it involves the chemistry between those people, everything that happens, the sparks that fly, and you react to me and I react to you, all of that is very sexual. And of course, that's what starts the family, right? That's where you get the two parents from, and they love each other, and they get horny, and they start to have sex. And that's where the kid comes from. And procreation, the new thing that comes out, is also said to be sexual. That it's about creating new things too. It's like, well, what happens if we put these things together? So that's kind of like a chemistry experiment, the sexual. You put these two things together and a new thing comes out, and what's going to happen? And so there's experimentation, and in a family, it can be new things, new traditions that happen. It can be stuff that happens randomly, experimentally. It can be, the intense relationships between the family members, the unique, relationships that have to do with chemistries and not sex between everybody, because that's not going to happen, between siblings or between parent and child, in a good family. But it's still going to happen, things leading up to that have a similar quality to them that are about the tension, because the sexual is more about building tension and attraction and repulsion and stuff. So you get a good bit of that in families. You get it between the parents, and then you get it between the other members as well, and it can give a charge or a magnetism or volatility to the family, and that's it can give people a sense of cohesion. They stick together, and it can give also a destructive quality that it tears people apart. Divorce seems very sexual. When the marriage goes badly and the family's torn apart, it's very much a sexual issue where people are repulsed and they come together, right, in sexual, and then they go apart. So it's about that kind of thing. And also it's a bit more emotional, it's a fiery instinct. It was inspired by the heart triad, interestingly, and you can't escape that. That's in core theory, that's there. There's no point. They're not identical, but that's how it started. And then it split into instinct and types. So a sexual of any type can sometimes seem more like a heart type, or they can have more of a heart triad quality to them. That's the theory behind it. And more relationship focused. Often, I think more promiscuous people can get into relationships more easily, and are more comfortable with intimacy. Sexual, real intimacy. Being naked and having sex and jumping into the deep end in that regard is more sexual first and sexual instinct. So the sexual first tend to be bolder, more aggressive people in their relationships, and they can fall in and out of love quickly, or in and out of sex, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, love is not identical with sex. I think love is different things coming together, but you'd have to kind of dissect that. And then finally, the social is next. Social is groups of people, right? You have one person with self-preservation, two is sexual, and then social is when you get more people together, and what those people do, the values they come up with, the compromises. It's finding common ground with people. It's said to be the intellectual, customs, cultures, authorities, status stuff. Also, when you get a big group together, the dynamics that result from that, of there being a lot of people, and the hierarchies, and sometimes the injustices, and the rules that people come up with. So in a family, it's going to be stuff like that arises over time with more and more members, and coming up with those routines and the values that govern the family. And all of that's more social. The bigger picture stuff, when you're dealing with more people and what are we going to do, in society, it extends outwards to huge groups of people, creating cultures and stuff. Okay. And it also, in a family, is those values you bring in from outside. So when you read a book about how to parent, or how to run your family, or, when you look to other families and they're doing something totally different from what you're doing, you start to see they have different cultures, and it's a different slant and flavor there. It was born of the head triad. Again, you can't get away from this. It's there in theory. This is not an opinion thing. This is just the way it is, the way it happened, the way it was created in terms of the history. Okay, so, it started off with just about type. They were types, and then they split into type and instinct, and it was born of the head triad, inspired by that. So the social, they can seem more like a head type. They're more likely to mistype as a head type. Even if they're not head types, if you're a social first or have a strong social, you're more likely to seem like a head type potentially. So yeah, that's all I've got. I just wanted to use that as an example about how we might do those, understandings. Try to understand that stuff, and to do those derivations and syntheses. The reason I'm doing it is because I'm not sure if I'm SOSX or SXSO, and I've struggled with it, and it's because I'm trying to live my life too, and they all work together, and it's just, there's some stuff that you can't get away from about the sexual 8 that's everywhere in the literature, and you can't run from it, that they're kind of the classic 8, and I talked about it a little bit in the post, that I just made. So, and the social aid is known as being more intellectual. So anyway, I hope that's interesting to people. It's a mixture of, you know, me not knowing exactly what my stacking is to show you that it's confusing and people don't always agree, but there being hope there, you know, for some insight. And even if you can put two of them together, that's helpful. And also to show how they work together, and to talk a little bit more about how, you know, different snapshots from different writers and authors can really be talking about the same thing. They should work together. It's, you know, it's a field where the people don't always collaborate, but they're still talking to each other. There's a common language there in place. So yeah. All right, that's that. Thanks so much. Hope you have a good day.